Today we have a lot of fairy tale books to read from. So, get snug and relaxed and we will get straight into them for you. Now is time for the Frozen story we all know and love. When Princess Elsa and Princess Anna of Arendelle were little girls, they were the best of friends. Anna was one of the only people who knew Elsa's secret. Elsa had the power to make snow and ice. One night, Elsa filled an empty ballroom with snow so the sisters could play together. As they played, Elsa lost control and she accidentally hit Anna with a blast of icy magic. Anna was badly hurt. Her parents went to the ancient mountains trolls for help. A wise old troll told them that Anna could be saved. She was lucky to have been hit in the head and not in the heart. As the years passed by, Anna forgot about that night. To keep Elsa's gift a secret from everyone else, their parents surrounded the castle with walls and never let anyone inside. But whenever Elsa had strong feelings, the magic spilled out. Elsa didn't want to hurt her sister again, so she stopped playing with Anna. That made Anna very lonely. Even after their parents were lost in a stormy sea, the sisters didn't spend any time together. Years later, it was time for Elsa to become the Queen of Arendelle. For just that day, the castle gates were opened. Hundreds of people attended the coronation ceremony. Elsa worked hard to hide her feelings and powers. At the party, Anna danced with handsome Prince Hans from the Southern Isles. He made her heart flutter. It seemed like they had everything in common, so they decided to get married. Elsa thought their engagement was a bad idea. Anna couldn't believe it and started arguing. Elsa started to lose control, and as she shouted, ice shot from her hands. Everyone stared at Elsa in shock. Now all the Arendelle knew Elsa's secret. She panicked and fled for the mountains. Anna felt horrible. Elsa's powers had created a terrible winter storm in the middle of summer. She left Hans in charge of the kingdom and raced after Elsa. As Anna rode through the fierce wind, her horse threw her into the snow and ran off back to Arendelle. Luckily, she met an ice harvester named Kristoff and his reindeer, Sven. Together they set off to look for Elsa. As they climbed the mountain, Anna and Kristoff discovered a beautiful winter wonderland. They met an enchanted snowman named Olaf. Olaf knew where Elsa was and wanted to help them bring back summer. Meanwhile, Hans was helping the people of Arendelle. When Anna's horse came back to the castle without her, Hans turned to the crowd and asked for volunteers. Back on the mountain, Olaf led Anna and Kristoff to a giant ice palace that Elsa had created with her powers. Even Kristoff was impressed. Inside, Anna told Elsa about the terrible storm in Arendelle. Elsa was worried and didn't know how to unfreeze the town, and she thought that Anna and Arendelle might be better off without her. Anna wanted Elsa to come home, but Elsa was too scared that she would hurt more people. As the sisters argued, an icy wave of magic burst from Elsa's body and struck Anna in the chest. Anna wouldn't leave without her sister. Elsa knew what she had to do. She used her magic to create a giant snowman to chase Anna and her friends out of the palace. The friends landed safely below. They had escaped from the snowman, but Anna was worried as her hair was turning snowy white. Kristoff brought Anna to the trolls. A troll told them that unless Elsa's magic was reversed, Anna would be frozen solid. Only an act of true love could thaw a frozen heart. Anna knew she loved Hans. As she began to shiver, Kristoff got worried about her. Hans and his soldiers had just arrived at the ice palace and attacked Elsa. They brought her back to Arendelle and threw her in the dungeon. When Anna arrived in Arendelle, she asked Hans to save her with a kiss. He refused as he had only pretended to love her. He wanted to take over Arendelle by getting rid of Anna and Elsa. Hans left Anna alone and shivering. Olaf found her and helped her warm up, but Anna was getting weaker. Olaf glanced out of the window and saw Kristoff racing toward the castle. Kristoff was the one Anna needed to kiss. Elsa had escaped from the dungeon, but Hans was close behind her. Hans told Elsa that her magic blast hit Anna's heart. Elsa collapsed in the snow and closed her eyes. Everything she had done to protect her sister had failed. Anna hurried towards Kristoff, but when she saw Hans has drawn his sword, instead of saving herself, she leaped in front of her sister. Hans swung his sword, but it shattered against Anna's frozen body. Elsa clutched her sister. Suddenly, Anna began to thaw and the two sisters hugged. As Olaf watched them, he remembered what the wise old troll had said: an act of true love will thaw a frozen heart. Anna's love for Elsa had saved both of them and the kingdom. The two sisters were best friends again, and summer had returned to Arendelle. Elsa even made Olaf a little snow cloud to keep him from melting. Elsa had a surprise for Anna. The castle gates were wide open. Now everything was the way it was supposed to be. What a wonderful ending! What story will be up next? This is the story of Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a simple and beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived with her evil stepmother and two stepsisters. The stepmother did not like her and made her do all the household work. Her stepsisters just never had to work, they just roamed around the house in their fancy dresses. They always made fun of Cinderella because of her plain dress. One day a letter from the king came to their house which said that the king is having a ball tonight and his son the prince would be choosing a wife. Every girl in the kingdom must be aware. Everyone got excited about reading this. Cinderella too wanted to go to the ball. Her stepmother told her that she can go if she completes all her work on time and also helps her stepsisters with their dresses for the ball. Cinderella worked as fast as she could to get everything done, but there was always something left. At last, she was left at home disappointed. She was so sad that she ran to the garden and said, "Wishes never come true." "Never, my dear," said a voice. As Cinderella looked up, a little woman with a wand and a kind smile stood in front of her. She was her fairy godmother. She wanted to help Cinderella go to the ball. With a wave of her hand, she made Cinderella look like a princess. She gave her a beautiful new gown, glass slippers, and shiny black horses to reach the ball. Before leaving, the fairy godmother said this magic will only last until midnight. You must reach back home by then. When Cinderella entered the palace, everybody was awestruck by her beauty. She was the prettiest girl at the ball. Even her stepsisters didn't recognize her. The handsome prince also saw her and fell in love with her. All the other girls were very jealous of her because the prince danced with her the whole night. She enjoyed herself so much that she almost forgot what the fairy godmother had told her about her magic. However, when she saw the time and remembered the godmother's words, she quickly left the palace and ran away. In all the hurry, one glass slipper which she was wearing was left on the castle steps. The prince had fallen in love with her and wanted to find out who she was as he wanted to marry her. The next day, he ordered his king's men to go to every house in the land and find the girl whose foot fits in the glass slipper. When they reached Cinderella's house, the two stepsisters tried their best to squeeze their big feet into the slippers, but they could not make it. Finally, when Cinderella tried the slipper, her foot fit perfectly into the glass slipper. The prince recognized her from the ball night. He married Cinderella soon in a grand ceremony, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Now on to the next fairy tale story. This is the story of Snow White. Once upon a time, there was a big and beautiful kingdom in which lived a king and a queen. They had a gorgeous daughter with black hair and fair skin, and her name was Snow White. Over the years, the princess grew up, becoming more and more beautiful and kind. But, sadly, her mother died and went to heaven. After a while, the king had married the new queen, who turned out to be an evil witch. One day, the witch asked her magic mirror a question. "Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the most beautiful woman in this kingdom?" And the mirror said, "Snow White it is." The witch queen got very angry on hearing this. She ordered a soldier to take her away from the kingdom and kill her. The soldier obeyed the queen. He took the princess to the forest but could not kill her because she was a very nice person. Then he said, "Go away, Snow White. I will spare your life. But don't ever come back because the queen witch wants to kill you. Go away now." She ran and ran with all her strength through the middle of the forest. She was very tired. Then far away she saw a tiny house and decided to get inside. When she came in, she saw that everything is quite small, and as she was tired she laid down on the little bed and fell asleep. Soon after, 7 dwarfs came into their house. When they saw Snow White, they got surprised and said, "What is this girl doing here?" After some time, she became friends with the 7 dwarfs. She cooked food and danced with them. But one day the queen witch found out that the princess was still alive. So she took a secret potion and turned herself into an old lady to be able to go to the dwarfess house without being noticed. The witch knocked on the little house door, and when Snow White opened the door, she saw an old lady who was the witch in disguise. The witch said, "Beautiful child, take this delicious apple. I am sure that you have not tried anything like this before." She took the apple and bit it without knowing the evil which has poisoned the apple. She fell on the floor after taking the bite and never woke up. The little dwarfs got very sad and decided to place her on the flower bed. One day, a handsome prince came to the forest on a beautiful horse. When he saw Snow White, he was so mesmerized by her beauty that he fell in love with her and kissed her hand. At that very moment, she woke up because the kiss broke the witch's magic. She was pleased to see the handsome prince in front of her, and she also fell in love with him. The prince and Snow White lived happily ever after, and the witch got so mad that she broke the mirror and never heard the mirror ever again. The end. This is the story of Rapunzel. In a land far away, lived a poor farmer and his wife. One day, they tried to pluck fruits from their neighbor's garden. But their neighbor was actually an old, wicked witch. She screamed, "How dare you steal from my garden? I'll turn you both into rats." The couple trembled with fear. Finally, the witch said, "Very well, I'll let you go. But you have to give me your first child." They were so scared that they immediately agreed and fled. A few years later, a beautiful baby girl was born to the farmer and his wife. Immediately, the old witch came and snatched the girl away from them. She named her Rapunzel and kept her locked up in a tall tower. She grew up to be a beautiful girl. But most beautiful of all was her long, golden hair. The only person she ever saw was the old witch. Every day, the witch used to come to the foot of the tower and call, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." She then used to let her long plait fall out the window, and the witch used to hold on to it and climb up. One day, a prince who was passing by hid behind the trees and watched the witch. As soon as she left, he too decided to try. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," he cried and climbed up into her room. She was stunned to see the prince. She had never before seen anybody so handsome. The prince too fell in love with her. They began to secretly meet every day after the witch left. One day, however, by mistake, Rapunzel said to the witch, "You are so much heavier than my prince." The witch realized what has been going on. She screamed and shouted in anger. She cut off her hair and sent her off deep into the forest. That day, when the prince came, he found the witch waiting for him at the top of the tower. She cursed and screamed some more, before casting a spell on him that made the prince lose his sight. The prince, now blind and with a broken heart, wandered through the forests. Many days later, Rapunzel found him wounded among the trees. She began to cry at the sorry sight of her prince. But as soon as her tears fell on him, his wounds healed, and his eyesight returned. The first thing the prince saw was his beloved. They were overjoyed to find each other again. They went away to his kingdom and lived happily ever after, far away from the wicked witch. The end. What story will be next? This is the story of the Beauty and the Beast. In a faraway land, lived a merchant and his beautiful daughter named Beauty. One day, the merchant got lost in the woods and reached a castle. He went inside and seeing nobody inside, decided to spend the night there. The next morning, when the merchant was leaving, he saw beautiful roses in the garden. He thought of Beauty and plucked one. Suddenly, a horrible beast came behind him and screamed at him for stealing from his garden. The merchant was scared and explained he plucked the rose for his daughter Beauty. The beast said he would let him go if he promised to send Beauty to stay with him. The merchant fearfully agreed. At home, he sorrowfully told Beauty the whole story. Beauty put her father's worries to rest and went to the castle. Initially, she was scared of the beast, but in a few days, she realized that the beast was kind and gentle. One day in the magic mirror gifted by the beast, Beauty saw that her father was ill. Unable to see her sadness, the beast let her go home. Beauty was glad to be home again. Under Beauty's care, her father quickly recovered. One day, she thought of the beast and saw it in the magic mirror. She saw that the beast too was ill. She went to the castle to meet him. Beauty saw the beast moaning in pain and dying. He was very glad to see her. She held him and sobbed and told him that she loved him and kissed him softly. At that very instant, the beast changed into a handsome prince. Beauty was surprised. The prince explained that her sweet words had broken the spell that was cast on him by a witch. They soon got married and lived happily ever after. The end. What another beautiful end to the story. I wonder what story is up next. This is the story of Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time in a faraway land, a beautiful girl was born to the king and queen. Fairies from all over were invited to the celebrations. They brought with them special gifts and blessed the little princess so that she would become a clever, beautiful, and kind girl. Just then, an old wicked fairy came to the palace and cursed the princess. "On your 16th birthday you'll touch a spindle and die," she screamed in anger and vanished. Everybody was shocked. A young fairy was called into the palace. She said, "I can take the evil witch's curse, but I'll try to help. When the princess will touch spindle, she'll not die but will instead fall into a deep sleep and will only be awakened with a kiss of a prince who loves her." The king and the queen were so worried for their dear daughter that they ordered all the spinning wheels of the kingdom to be destroyed forever. However, unknown to them, one spinning wheel was still left. As the years went by, the baby grew to be a lovely, charming young girl. On her 16th birthday, when she was roaming about the castle, she came upon a secret room at the very top of the castle towers. Curious, she wanted to help an old woman bent over a spinning wheel. "Oh! What is this?" she cried as she had never seen it before. She pleaded with the woman, "Please do let me try this as well." But the minute she touched the needle of the spindle, she fell to the ground. The witch's spell comes true. With a heavy heart, the king ordered her to be taken to the grand room, where she would lie for many years. The whole kingdom was sad for Sleeping Beauty. The youngest fairy watched all of this, and she said with a wave of her hand, "Let the whole kingdom fall asleep with the princess, so when is woken by her prince, she will not be alone." The moment she said all this, all the people and animals in the kingdom fell asleep where they were. Everything stopped. As the years passed by, a thick forest grew around the palace and the kingdom was hidden. Exactly 100 years later, a handsome prince was passing through the forest and he discovered the strange kingdom. While exploring it, he was surprised to find the Sleeping Beauty lying fast asleep and immediately fell in love with her. "I want to know who she is. How gentle and peaceful she looks," he said. He leaned down and kissed her. Instantly, the spell was lifted, the princess and all the people awoke. It was joy and celebration all around. The prince and princess were soon married and they lived happily ever after. The end. We will now move on to the next story. Next up is the short story of Pinocchio. Long ago, an old carpenter named Geppetto carved a puppet in the shape of a boy and named it Pinocchio. He wished the boy to be a real one. A fairy heard his words and fulfilled his wish. She added life to the puppet. You may also like to read Robin Hood short story. But she wanted that if he was to be a real boy, he must always be a good boy. Geppetto loved him dearly, but Pinocchio was quite naughty and rarely spoke the truth. As soon as he lied, his wooden nose would grow long. He always promised to be a good boy from the next time. But he soon forgot his word and left the school with his friends to join a circus. Now, he began to miss Geppetto. One day, he heard that his father had been swallowed up by a huge whale. He immediately went to find the whale. The whale swallowed him as well. Inside the whale's belly, Pinocchio and Geppetto were so happy to see each other. They made a plan to get out and began tickling the whale's stomach. As soon as the whale opened his mouth and sneezed, Pinocchio and Geppetto slipped out. They reached home safely. The fairy was pleased with Pinocchio's bravery and she turned him into a real flesh and blood boy. From that day, he was a very good boy and never missed school. The father and son lived happily ever after. Now for the story of Robin Hood. Long ago, England was ruled by a wicked, greedy Prince John. He ordered the Sheriff Nottingham to tax the people so heavily that some were forced to become outlaws. Two of the most famous outlaws were Robin Hood and Little John, who would steal the tax money from the sheriff and give it back to the poor. One day Prince John was traveling by coach to Nottingham to pick up more tax money. He was so busy counting his gold that he didn't notice he was passing through Sherwood Forest, the home of Robin Hood, nor did he see that Little John and Robin Hood were watching him from the tree. Also, read Peter Pan's story. "Look at all that gold. Hey Little John, let's pay Prince John a little visit," said Robin Hood. In his coach, Prince John was talking to his counselor, Sir Hiss, about his favorite subject, gold. Life has become so wonderful since King Richard left for the Crusades. He treated the people too nicely and he missed out on all this lovely gold, said Prince John. Robin Hood and Little John were standing by the roadside disguised as lady fortune tellers when the coach passed by. Prince John ordered to stop the coach. While Robin Hood told Prince John's fortune, he slipped the royal rings off his fingers, and Little John helped himself to the prince's gold. Prince John never ever knew he had been robbed until Robin and Little John escaped. Meanwhile, the Sheriff of Nottingham was busy collecting taxes. He even took the coin that Mrs. Bunny had given her son, Skippy, for his birthday. The sheriff had no heart. Robin Hood didn't think little Skippy should go without presents on his birthday, so he gave his bow and arrow and his big hat as a gift. The first time Skippy tried the bow, his arrow flew over Prince John's castle wall. On the other side, he saw Maid Marian and Lady Cluck. Even though Marian was related to Prince John, she saw Robin's friend. Long ago, they had been childhood sweethearts. One day, Robin's friend Friar Tuck came to Sherwood Forest with some news. Prince John is having an archery tomorrow. Maid Marian will kiss the winner. Everyone knew that Robin Hood was the best archer in all of England. The next day, two strangers appeared at the tournament, a stork and a duke. Nobody will recognize us in these disguises. I will win the tournament and the kiss, but no one will know the winner is Robin Hood, said Robin Hood. Soon the stork and the sheriff were the only ones left in the contest. And even though Sheriff tried to cheat by having the target moved, the stork made an amazing move and won. Prince John watched very closely. Robin Hood came to claim his prize, but Prince John ordered his guards to seize him and gave him immediate death. But suddenly, Little John grabbed Prince John and told him to free Robin Hood. Once Robin was free, a big fight began. Robin and Little John fought off the guards bravely. Swords clashed and the arrows flew. Maid Marian was almost seized by the guards, but Robin somehow rescued her. He and his friends escaped into woods. Safely back in Sherwood Forest, all of them celebrated and Little John sang a song making fun of Prince John. It was so funny that soon all of Nottingham was singing it. On hearing it, Prince John became very angry and commanded to double the taxes. But of course, nobody could pay and the prisons were full. The sheriff even robbed the church and arrested Friar for objecting. When Prince John heard that Friar Tuck was in jail, he planned a new trap for Robin Hood. "We'll hang Friar in the morning, and when Robin comes to the rescue, we'll have him," said Prince John. But Robin Hood was a foxy fellow and he was dressed up like a guard. He and Little John climbed the high castle wall and carefully stole the jail keys from the sheriff who was sleeping. Everyone was surprised to see familiar faces and cried with joy. Meanwhile, Robin had climbed up into Prince John's bedroom, where all the gold was kept. Prince John and Sir Hiss were sound asleep. Robin tied the bags of gold to a rope between the bedroom window and the jail. Suddenly Prince John awoke and saw there was no gold left. The courtyard became a jumble of arrows, guards, and fleeing prisoners. When Robin's hat bobbed to the surface of the moat, Prince John was overjoyed and thought that he was dead. But Robin had escaped by diving in the moat. Even Little John thought that Robin had drowned. But suddenly, Little John saw Robin and was overjoyed. Soon after Robin's narrow escape, good King Richard Narrow came back from the Crusades to take his place on the throne of England. Happiness returned to the land. Robin Hood and Maid Marian were married and all their friends came to wish them all. The end. Bravo to them. Now on to the next story. This is the famous Peter Pan story. Once upon a time, there were 3 children: Wendy, John, and Michael Darling. They liked bedtime because every time in the nursery Wendy told stories about Peter Pan. Children's stories. Peter is a little boy who decided never to grow up. He lives in a faraway Neverland, full of adventures and fun. The children loved to hear stories about him, and Peter himself would come flying down and sit on the nursery windowsill to hear the stories. One night Peter asked the children to come with him to the Neverland. Wendy was delighted on hearing this. Peter taught them how to fly. All it took was a wish and a pinch of pixie dust and a little practice too. Then out of the nursery, they flew away to the Neverland. The Neverland was a wonderful place. There were fairies living in treetops and mermaids swimming in a lagoon. There were real red Indians in a village on a cliff and woods full of wild animals. Best of all, there were ships full of pirates with an especially wicked leader, Captain Hook. Wendy, John, and Michael knew at first sight that they would love the Neverland. They liked Peter's underground house, with lots of hidden doorways in a big hollow tree. There they met the lost boys who shared Peter's home. All the boys were delighted that Wendy had come to tell bedtime stories to them, but they didn't spend much time in that underground house. There were too many exciting things to do. Sometimes they played at war with the Red Indians, who were their good friends. Sometimes they had trouble with the wicked pirates, who were their enemies. One day the pirates stole away Princess Tiger Lily of the Indian tribe. The Indian chief, her father, all were upset, but Peter Pan rescued Tiger Lily and brought her safely home again. This made Captain Hook, the leader of the pirates, mad at Peter more than ever before. He kidnapped Wendy, John, Michael, and all the lost boys while Peter was away. He took them to his pirate ship. Hook decided to throw them off from the ship. Wendy was sure that Peter would rescue them. At the last minute, Peter appeared. He beat Captain Hook and freed every one of his friends. They scared those bad pirates into jumping overboard and rowing away in their boat. Now, they got the pirate ship. Wendy decided to go back home. With a wish and a pinch of pixie dust, they made the pirate ship fly. They all sailed on that ship through the sky to the nursery window again. The children's parents could hardly believe that their children had been to Neverland. Wendy, John, and Michael never forgot Peter Pan even after they grew up. Now on to another great story. This is the story of Dumbo and Timothy. "Wee!" cried Timothy Mouse as he flew through the air atop Dumbo's hat. The little elephant used his giant ears to zoom straight to the very top of the circus tent. "Way to go!" whooped Timothy Mouse. "Can we try a loop-de-loop next?" asked Timothy. Dumbo nodded eagerly and flapped his ears to gain speed. Soon, he was swooping down, then up, around, and down, and across the tent again. "That was our best loop-de-loop yet," exclaimed Timothy. Dumbo smiled as he landed on the ground. "Great rehearsal," Timothy told Dumbo. "But I think we've practiced enough this morning. What do you say we take a break?" Image source at Puzzles Games. EU. As the two friends walked outside, they heard voices call Dumbo's name. They turned to see the crowd of circus performers waving. "Great flying," said a clown. "You're amazing," added the sword swallower. "We're very big fans," called an acrobat. "Don't let the stardom go to your head, pal," Timothy whispered to Dumbo just as his own friends ran up cheering for him. "Oh, it's Timothy Mouse," squealed a girl mouse. "Oh, isn't he cute?" said her friend. "Oh, it's Timothy Mouse," squealed a girl mouse. "Oh, isn't he cute?" said her friend. "You can have the rest of the morning off," Timothy told Dumbo with a wink as his fans dragged him away. "Take a nap. You'll practice later." Dumbo nodded sleepily. That sounded like a good idea to him. The little elephant made his way toward the circus train car where he lived with his mother and Timothy. Suddenly, he heard someone shout, "Oh no! My beautiful balloons! They're floating away!" Sure enough, a big bunch of colorful balloons was drifting into the sky. Quickly, Dumbo sprang into action. As soon as he reached them, he grabbed the balloon strings tightly with his trunk. Dumbo carried balloons back to the balloon seller, who took them gratefully. "Thanks, Dumbo, you're the best. You saved my day," said the man. Dumbo smiled a big smile. He was just happy he could help. Dumbo waved goodbye to the man, readier than ever for his nap. As he walked towards his train car, however, he saw a crowd gathered in front of the circus tent. Using his trunk, Dumbo politely nudged his way in to see what was going on. A little girl stood in the middle of the crowd with tears streaming down her face. "I want my mommy," she cried. "I think the poor kid is lost," said a magician. "I bet her mom is as upset as she is," a juggler said. Even the strong man was feeling sorry for her. "We've got to help her, but how?" he asked. Dumbo walked over and gently tapped the little girl on the shoulder with his trunk. "Great idea, Dumbo," exclaimed the juggler. "You can help the girl find her mother from the air." With the girl on his back, Dumbo flew high above the circus tents. Holding on tight, the girl could see everything, including her mother in the crowd. "There's my mommy," she shouted happily, pointed to a woman on the ground. Dumbo landed and the girl ran into her mother's open arms. "I was so worried," said the girl's mother. "Thank you, Dumbo." Dumbo smiled back. He was just glad that he'd been there to help. Now, Dumbo was really ready for that nap. But suddenly, a pie whizzed past his trunk. Dumbo turned to see some clowns practicing their pie-throwing act. In no time, they were covered with pink whipped cream from head to toe. "What a mess," said one of the clowns, licking the pie filling from around his lips. "Shower time," said another. Dumbo smiled at the gooey, sticky, pie-covered clowns, and an idea popped into his head. Dumbo flew over to a tank of water and filled his trunk. Then he flew back and sprayed the water all over the clowns with one big whoosh. Instantly, the pie was all washed away. "Thanks, Dumbo," called the clowns as they laughed and waved. When Dumbo finally arrived at his train car, he sighed and looked around. No balloons were loose. No children were lost. And no clown needed rinsing off. Dumbo snuggled down into the soft hay and very quickly fell asleep. A moment later, however, Timothy walked in. "Are you still sleeping, Dumbo?" the mouse asked. "Come on, wake up. It's time to practice." But Dumbo was too tired to even lift his head. "Well, that's the last time I let you rest," exclaimed Timothy. "From now on, it's just practice, practice, and practice." Dumbo smiled without opening his eyes. That sounded fine to him. Practice would be easy compared to trying to get some rest. That wraps up all the stories we have for today. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.